Welcome back to Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier, sponsored by Four Paws Restaurant, the iconic fine dining restaurant in St. Paul, Minnesota. You can see it pictured behind me here. Wonderful food, really wonderful food. Um, Attentive professional service, and a great wine program with me as a sommelier. I'm proud to work there. It's a wonderful restaurant. I wrote this a couple of years ago, and I've shared it here before, but I thought it was worth sharing again. I titled it Musings on a Half Century of Wine. It's kind of long and maybe it's a little self-serving, um, but uh, it kind of expresses in too much detail why I think wine is such an incredible part of life. So I'm going to share it with you today if you're patient enough and have the time to listen to it. Um, Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier. I've been thinking a lot lately about what makes a wine memorable. Is it because it is, quote, one of the best ever made, unquote, or is it because a critic rated 100 points, but because it's extremely expensive, because it's extremely rare? During my 48 plus, well, now 52 plus years as a restaurant and wine professional, I've been blessed to have many generous friends with amazing collections who have invited me to taste some of history's greatest wines. As sommelier at some amazing dinners, I've tasted 50 plus vintages of all the first growth Bordeaux's, every vintage to date of the Gigal Lalas at a tasting I was a sommelier at, I think in 1994. 24 different Le Montrachets at one tasting, complete verticals of Heights Martha's Vineyard, Ridge Montebello, Mondavi Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon, a horizontal tasting of 2002 Domaine Lafleur White Burgundies, and of course the Magnum of 1870 Thomas Castle Lafite, and on and on. I could go on. But it is a wine special because it's on a critic's list of best ever wines. Some vintages of first growth Bordeaux are disappointing, as are some vintages of Grand Cru Burgundies or Cru Barolos or Cult Napa Cabernets. Then there are wines like the 1984 B.R. Cohn Silver Label Cabernet made by Helen Turley, or so Bruce Cohn told me years ago when I tasted it with him, which have pedestrian reputations and price tags but are unforgettable. Or 2004 Domaine Loire Bourgogne Rouge, which was a blend of Village Premier Cru and Grand Cru fruit that retailed at the time for $30. And I'll never forget what that wine tasted like. Is it scores? A 100-point score from an important publication used to be rare, but now pages and pages on the Wine Advocate website offer 100-point ratings. And then there's ratings inflation. Some critics seem to give 96-point ratings to everything they taste. Can a $22 Argentine Chardonnay really be a 98-point wine? It is. How many points do you give DRC Montrachet or Haut-Brion Blanc or Aubert Chardonnay? And what creates a 100-point rating? Typically, it's power, intensity, tannin, oak, and richness. Where does that leave Pinot Noir, Gruner Veltliner, Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, and other wines that are not intended in their purest form to be about power, intensity, or oakiness? Is it Sprice? Is Screaming Eel Cabernet Sauvignon at over $2,000 a better wine than Schaefer Hillside Select at $400? Is Romanée-Conti at $6,000 better wine than Marcassin Pinot Noir at $400? Admittedly, the 1923 Romanée-Conti we opened at 360 Bistro in Nashville about 10 years ago might have been one of the top 5 wines I've ever tasted. Or was it the 1931 Quinta de Naval Nacional port at Chef Siggy's I opened one night, and one person I served it to accidentally knocked it on the floor and got down on his hands and knees and licked it up out of the carpet. I'm not sure he really did that, but he at least pretended to. Is it rarity? Is La Romanée a special wine because there are only a few cases produced? Is Chateau Latour less desirable because there are thousands of cases produced? I'm not sure. Simply put, what makes a particular wine memorable? Can wine be an artistic achievement on a par with a Van Gogh painting, a Rodin sculpture, a Luciano Pavarotti aria, or a Frank Gehry building? Can it stir your emotions in the way those do? Can it make you feel a connection with something divine? A well-known California winemaker told me recently that the most memorable wine of his life was an inexpensive Corsican rosé that he and his wife drank in a Paris park, the Tuileries, on a trip to celebrate her recovery from cancer. An influential sommelier said his most memorable bottle was a bottle of 1870 Chateau Lafite Rothschild that his boss opened for the director of the CIA to celebrate the capture of Osama bin Laden. A young winemaker, member of a winemaking family in Tuscany, said it was a bottle of 1947 Chateau L'Angelus opened to celebrate their Brunello being named the Wine Spectator Wine of the Year by Wine Spectator. A well-respected winemaker from Chablis cited a bottle of 1947 Chablis Les Clos opened to celebrate the passing of his father. There's no simple answer. It may be the wine, it may be the occasion, it may be the friends or family with whom you share the wine, or a combination of those factors. Easily the greatest wine I have ever tasted was that Magnum of 1870 Lafite Rothschild from the Glamis Castle collection, served at a charity dinner, which raised a lot of money for cancer research. But the most memorable wine experience, perhaps a Magnum of Dom Perignon my wife and I shared. She had one small sip the night our son was born in her hospital room. Or my first ever taste of wine with Minnie Pearl and her husband, Governor John Y. Brown of Kentucky, and his wife Phyllis George, and John J. Hooker and his wife Tish. I was 10, and my mother was so flustered by the grandiosity of the guests at our house for dinner that she mistakenly marinated the quail in the wine that she bought to serve with dinner, and served the cooking sherry that she was supposed to marinate the quail in with dinner. I'll never forget that wine for sure. And I always have an excellent answer when somebody asks what's the worst wine I ever tasted. It was that Kroger cooking sherry. Christian Moreau, Chablis Les Clos with Bellone oysters at lunch with a very close friend at Atelier Joel Robuchon in Paris was truly unforgettable. And a bottle of 1929 Chateau Chalon, a legendary wine from the Jura, to accompany fettuccine with white truffles with a very eccentric wine personality named Francois Auduze, was an experience I'll never forget, in part because it was the most expensive meal of my life, in spite of the fact that it was lunch and Francois supplied the Chateau Chalon. Was it serving a bottle of 1953 Lafite Rothschild to Mickey Mantle? Was it dinner with multiple vintages of Chateau Musard with Serge Hoffard at the Wild Boar? Or the day Santiago Achual, who was pretty much unknown at the time, stopped by my wine shop and asked if I would taste his wines from Mendoza. They took my breath away, and now he is very famous for his fabulous wines. Or the time Randall Graham, the original Lone Ranger, poured cigar volant from horseback, dressed as the Lone Ranger, in the bar at my restaurant in Nashville. Or hosting a vertical tasting there of Heights Martha's Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon with Joe Heights and Marvin Overton. Maybe it was the dinner there with a vertical tasting of Taylor Port, including the legendary 1945 vintage, served with rare bluefin tuna with fresh foie gras and port sauce. Or 1985 Sassicaia with Nicola and Chisa della Rocchetta at the Germantown Country Club in Memphis. Or perhaps the night at a Noni restaurant in St. Paul when I brought out a bottle of 2017 Castello della Sala Severo della Sala. In the evening's honoree stunned me by saying it was her father's favorite wine and the one that she drank most often with him. Out of the thousands, literally thousands of wines in our cellar, I could have picked anything, and that was the wine that I, by coincidence, picked. I don't believe that was coincidence. The common thread is that sharing these wines brought people together, in some cases from all over the world, making the events truly memorable. Fine wine pleases all the senses. The cork being removed pleases the ear. The beautiful color pleases the eye. The aroma and bouquet please the nose, and the taste pleases the palate. And when you open a bottle at home, you're more likely to prepare something for dinner rather than ordering in fast food. The TV gets turned off and music turned on. Dinner lasts an hour instead of 15 minutes, often with meaningful conversation. When a special bottle of wine is opened, there's that moment of anticipation before the first sniff, and taste, followed by euphoria when the wine delivers on its promise. The color is beautiful, the aroma lovely, and the taste compelling, all part of a shared experience with people you care about or love. Even if you've just met, the wine brings you together for a few moments in a joyous celebration of life. We try the first bite of food chosen to complement the wine. Are they a good marriage? When it is like those Bellon oysters with the Chablis Les Clos, it can be magical. Everyone at the table looks up and smiles, and time stops for a moment of pure love for the wine, the food, and for each other. This is, I believe, what makes wine unforgettable and why my professional life these last 5 decades has been so rewarding. Thank you for tuning in to Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier. If you listen to that entire uh, monologue, I admire you for your patience. Come see me at Four Paws. We have wonderful wine by the glass. We have really wonderful wine on our wine list by the bottle and really fabulous food. Thank you, Bundy, very much for tuning in for Adventures of a Black Belt Sommelier.